Welcome to the Chilean Patagonia, one of the most beautiful places on Earth. Each year, over 4 million visitors from around the world travel to the southernmost part of South America's continent to experience the rugged mountains, blue glacial lakes, abundance of wildlife, and this magical landscape. In November of 2022, I turned one of my dreams into a reality and flew all the way down to Torres del Paine National Park and hiked the famous W Track in southern Chile. And today, I want to share all my knowledge and help you book your dream trip to this magical place. In the next portion of the video, I want to tell you the best ways to get to the park, where to stay, how to book your campsites, and most importantly, share my 4-day itinerary with you that I used for my W Track. Before you begin planning your trip to Torres del Paine, keep in mind that while November through early March is considered summertime in the southern hemisphere, it is also one of the busiest, and I suggest you consider going in the shoulder season around October or late March. When traveling to Patagonia, you will first need to fly into Santiago, Chile, the capital. There are direct flights from the US out of Miami, JFK, or Los Angeles. Once in Santiago, you have the option to fly into Puerto Natales, which is the city closest to the park entrance, or Punta Arenas, located about a 5-hour bus ride from the park. The three main airlines operating between Santiago and these two cities are LATAM, Sky Airline, and JetSmart, and I recommend you book directly with the airline. The main bus companies operating in this region of Chile are Bus Sur, Bus Fernandez, and Bus Maria Jose, and the journey between Puerto Natales and Torres del Paine National Park costs $10 one way. I recommend purchasing your tickets either online or the day prior to departing to Torres del Paine, as the buses fill up very quickly. Before setting out on your adventures to Torres del Paine National Park, take some time to explore this small but charming town of Puerto Natales. Check out some of the museums, restaurants, and you can even book your activities and accommodations in Torres del Paine through many of the tour agencies scattered around the town. In this next portion of the video, we will talk about accommodations. When you come to Torres del Paine National Park, you have many options to tailor to your experience. You can choose to hike the famous W Track, which is roughly 45 miles and takes 4 to 5 days to complete. And your other option is the O Track, which is 75 miles in length and takes approximately 7 to 8 days depending on your pace. And lastly, you can opt to see some of the highlights of the W Track as part of your day trips, which I will also discuss. When you begin searching for accommodations on the W or the O Track, note that there are two companies operating within the park boundaries. They are Vertiz and Las Torres. I will leave a link to each of their websites in the video description below. In total, there are 11 campsites throughout the park, which you can see on the map here. And here is a list of each of the sites, which tells you what kind of accommodation it offers. One aspect of both the W and the O Track that I absolutely love is that you are in control of your budget. You can opt for a budget-friendly camping, or perhaps you want to splurge and treat yourself to a mountain cabin stay. However, if you are a budget-conscious traveler like myself, then listen up, because I have good news for you. Campsite reservations start at just $20 per night, or you have the options of packing light and purchasing a tent and a sleeping bag at each of the campsites, and they will be ready for you when you arrive. The cost of these services can vary from campsite to campsite, but here is a general overlook of the pricing. These prices are subject to change, so I advise you to check on the website before booking. In addition to the services we have just talked about, each of these campsites has a small store with snacks and refreshments for purchase. 7 of the 9 sectors throughout the park have a refugio and a restaurant where you can purchase meals. The only 2 sectors without refugios are Cerrón and Los Perros, which are located on the O Circuit. And here is the pricing of the different meal services offered at each location. Lastly, I strongly recommend that you book your accommodations as far in advance as possible because they do fill up very quickly. In my experience, booking on the website opens in late June, early July for the upcoming season. As you begin piecing together your itinerary, be sure to verify on the website the opening dates for each of the campsites you wish to stay in. Now that I've covered the essentials of booking your travel and accommodations, let's talk about my experience during the entire hike so that you can get a better feel for what to expect. My first day of the W Trek began in a small town of Puerto Natales. I took the earliest bus ride that cost me $10 and took about 2 hours to reach the park's entrance at Laguna Amarga. Once the bus drops you off there, you will need to take one of the shuttles for an additional $5 until you reach the park's headquarters. Here you will pay a $30 park entrance fee and have to show proof of your reservations. And then you'll be on your way to explore this magical place. Today's trek begins here in Central section and will take approximately 9 miles with over 2,500 feet of elevation to reach the base of the 3 majestic granite towers. On a clear day, you can see the 3 towers off into the distance. As you begin hiking towards them, you'll be greeted by beautiful views of Lake Nordenskjöld off to your left, colorful wildflowers throughout your hike, and towering mountains everywhere. As you begin to climb higher and higher, take some breaks to take in the beautiful scenery around you. After about 3 miles of hiking, you'll reach the Windy Pass, a beautiful valley of streams, rivers, and extreme winds. During my hike, I was lucky, but the winds can reach speeds up to 100 miles per hour. Soon after, there's a bridge crossing, and right across the river is Refugio Chileno, where I have booked a campsite for the night. From this point on, it is another 3 miles to reach Mirador Las Torres. The hike starts through a lush forest following the Rio Ascencio River upstream. I'd also like to mention that many hikers who wish to visit Mirador Las Torres choose to do a day hike. If you are planning to do so, then I suggest staying in Hotel Las Torres or camping in Central sector and starting as early as possible, as you will have to hike over 14 miles round trip. The final portion of the hike is perhaps the most challenging as you begin to climb over rocks and boulders on your way up to the granite towers. The views, however, start to get better and better until you finally reach the most blue lake standing at the base of these 3 granite giants. The following morning, I woke up early to continue my trek to my next destination along the W Trek. In today's section of the W Trek, I'll be going from Refugio Chileno to Camp Frances, following the beautiful Lake Nordenskjöld. The hike is roughly 10 miles with minimum elevation gain and takes 6 to 7 hours to complete. As you begin hiking out of the Windy Pass, be sure to follow the path to your right and not make the same mistake I did when I took the path to the left, which would ultimately take me back to Central campsite. Soon after exiting the valley, you'll be greeted by the bluish color tones of Lake Nordenskjöld that is fed by the snowmelt from the surrounding mountains. From this point onward, you will head west, and through your hike, you'll be able to admire the beautiful lake on your left and a tall mountain on your right, which is called Torres del Paine. After hiking for about 7 miles, you'll reach one of my favorite sections of this part of the hike. Just past Refugio Huernos, you'll get your first glimpse of Paine Grande, the tallest mountain peak in the park. Just slightly to your right is Los Huernos, the horns in Spanish. This is one of the most unique mountain structures in the entire park, with its granite base and the different shades of rock that took thousands, if not millions of years to form. Continuing down the path, you will end up at this small secluded rock beach where you can sit down and relax while listening to the small waves of the lake crashing against the shore. After another mile, you will reach Camp Frances, which is about a halfway point on the W track. When I arrived at the campsite, I went to check in at the reception and I was given a campsite number and proceeded to unload my bag into the tent. My initial plan was to relax for the rest of the day and visit the French Valley in the morning as I was making my way to Paine Grande. However, after checking the weather, which forecasted lots of rain the next day, I decided I was going to continue on with the hike to the French Valley. If you are beginning your hike to French Valley from Camp Frances, keep in mind that it takes 2.5 miles to reach the first overlook called Mirador Frances. To reach the second overlook called Mirador Britannico, it is an additional 2 miles, making it a total of 8 miles round trip. In my opinion, this is the most challenging hike on the W track, as you will be gaining over 2,000 feet of incline and climbing over rocks to reach the end of the French Valley. With that being said, I also believe that this is one of the most beautiful places in the entire park, as you will pass through waterfalls, melting glacier, and stunning granite peaks. It is now day 3 of my Patagonia adventures and I am on my way to the next campsite, Paine Grande. I am so grateful that I decided to hike to the French Valley yesterday because if you look behind me, zero visibility, but the weather here in southern Chile can change in the blink of an eye. We have about 7 miles until we reach Paine Grande, and once there, I will show you around a little bit and tell you about a few day hike opportunities. After an hour into my hike, the weather was changing yet again and I could see the clear blue skies opening up on the other side of Paine Grande mountain. I had to stop and take some photos. As you continue on your hike for another few miles, you will reach Lake Scottsburg. Here's where I experienced some of the intense winds in my entire life, to the point where it was pushing me around. Winds in Patagonia are no joke. Just around the corner, you will come into view of yet another blue lake. This is Lake Pijo. And just out of sight, tucked away into the valley, is the campsite and the refugio Paine Grande. The Paine Grande Refugio is one of the best equipped facilities in the park, with a restaurant-style buffet, a mini store, hot showers, dome-style bunk beds, and campsites as well. This is also one of the busiest sectors on both the W and the O track, as many people prefer to start their W trek here and head eastward. You will also notice a catamaran service that runs between Pudeto and Paine Grande 2 to 3 times per day depending on the season. You can find the link to the shuttle service schedule in the video description below. We now arrived at the 4th and final day of what has been nothing short of a magical experience here in Torres del Paine National Park. Today, I'll be hiking over 20 miles to not only check out the Great Glacier overlook, but also check out the second suspension bridge, which is said to have the best views of the glacier. My hike began at 4 a.m., way before the sunrise, hiking in the darkness and battling the front-facing winds. An early start ensured that I could make it back in time for the last ferry from Paine Grande back to Pudeto. When you start your hike from Paine Grande, you'll have to climb over some switchbacks over the next 4 miles until you reach the ridge where you will come into the view of Lago Gray. You may wonder why the lake has this gray murky tone, and that's because of the glacial silt that erodes from the Great Glacier. Upon reaching Gray Lake, you will follow it along for the next 5 miles. As you are hiking, be sure to stop at some of the incredible overlooks and take in this once-in-a-lifetime scenery. I continue hiking alongside the lake, battling the infamous winds here in Patagonia. Did you know that some of the strongest winds in the world have been recorded here in southern Chile? The strongest winds of up to 120 miles per hour occur here each year during the summer months. It took about 4 hours of hiking to reach Refugio Gray, which is the final campsite on the W track. I took this opportunity for a quick lunch break before continuing on. Just half a mile past the refugio is the overlook of the glacier, but as I promised you, we are going to the second suspension bridge for the best views. There are 3 suspension bridges on this section of the hike. The first one is located just a mile past the refugio, named the John Gardner Bridge. The second, and the longest suspension bridge, is an additional mile from the first. And if you're wondering if you should expand your energy to come check out these bridges, ask yourself, when will I ever be back here? So if you have the time, I'd say do it and check out these views. That was the end of my 4-day itinerary for the W Trek. I must say, it was the most breathtaking hike of my entire life. The pace of my hike was just right. I was able to stop and soak in the moment and take in all of these fantastic views. With that being said, let me share the most important piece of information, and that is a breakdown of the total expenses for the 6 days that I had incurred while being down here in southern Chile. I have included links for booking your stay as well as other important pieces of information that I think you should know in the description below. If you're interested and would like to watch my daily videos from the W Trek, you can find these in my Chile playlist. I hope you found this video useful as you begin to plan your W Trek, but if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I will get back to you. I hope to see you all on my next adventure.